Ali Madad and Eid Mubarak. Welcome to the Eid al-Adha quiz. My name is Azam Samnani, and it is my pleasure to be your host for this part of the day. I hope you are enjoying this special Eid program and are ready to have some fun with the next segment. In this quiz, there will be 12 questions with 4 multiple choice options to choose from. Today, our questions will explore the background and significance of Eid al-Adha, along with the themes of sacrifice, service, volunteerism, and pluralism, all of which are the basis of the work of our Jamaat and the AKDN. Our top tip to get the most out of the quiz is to gather your friends and family so we can all learn and play together. Okay, well, if you're ready, let's get started. So first of all, as we all know, the Islamic lunar-based calendar starts with the hijrah of the Prophet, may peace be upon him and his family, from Mecca to Medina in 622 CE. You'll need to keep this in mind for our first question. Are you ready? Here it is. On what day and month does Eid al-Adha fall in the Islamic calendar? Is it A, 12th Shaban, B, 9th Dhul Qa'dah, C, 10th Shawwal, or D, 10th Dhul Hijjah? The correct answer is option D, 10th Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah is also a month in which many Muslims perform Hajj and visit the Kaaba as a sign of submission to the will of Allah. This leads us to our next question. What does the word Adha, as in Eid al-Adha, mean? Is it A, sacrifice, B, joy, C, festival, or D, devotion? The correct answer is option A, sacrifice. The word Adha draws its roots from Daha and has associated meanings of offer up and sacrifice. As we know, Eid al-Adha is observed by Muslims around the world in commemoration of one of the greatest trials of faith in the life of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. I remember learning about this and about the story of Prophet Ibrahim in the Talim books, as I'm sure many of you do. So let's jog our memory with our next question. The story of the sacrifice of Prophet Ismail is presented in which surah of the Holy Quran? Is it A, Surah As-Safat, B, Surah Al-Ikhlas, C, Surah Al-Fatiha, or D, Surah Al-Aql? The correct answer is option A, Surah As-Safat. Surah As-Safat says, "We called out to him, O Ibrahim, you have already fulfilled the vision. Thus indeed we reward the righteous." Indeed, this was a manifest trial. Surah 37, ayats 104 to 106. Jewish, Christian, and Muslim traditions all place emphasis on Prophet Ibrahim's unfailing obedience to God. It is related that as a test of Prophet Ibrahim's faith, the Almighty called upon him to sacrifice his beloved son Ismail. At the moment of the sacrificial act, a merciful intervention of a replacement spared his son's life. As a father of both Prophet Ishaq and Prophet Ismail, Prophet Ibrahim is a common figure in Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions. Hence, our next question. What are the three faiths, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, collectively referred to as? Is it A, Judeo-Christian, B, Abrahamic, C, tribal, or D, Zoroastrian Persian? The correct answer is option B, Abrahamic religions. We often refer to the al-Kitab, or people of the book, those who follow these three religions. Eid al-Adha celebrates the common humanity and ethical heritage shared by the al-Kitab. All right, so now that we've taken care of all of the bases, let's dive a little deeper with our next question. Eid al-Adha's larger messages include A, celebrating our common humanity and ethical heritage. B, the ethic of sacrifice and submission to the will of God. C, unity, devotion, and the ethic of care and compassion. Or D, all of the above. The correct answer is option D, all of the above. In a banquet hosted in Houston, USA on 23rd June 2002 by the governor of Texas, Rick Perry, Maulana Hazar Imam said,
"The shared destiny of the ethos of the Abrahamic tradition that unites Christians, Jews, and Muslims is governed by the duty of loving care to help nurture each life that is born to its God-given potential."
The story of the willingness of Prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice his son Ismail conveys many deep-rooted values that are core to our tradition, including the sacrifice of time and the ethic of voluntary service. So let's continue to reflect on the ethic of voluntary service with our next question. During his address to both houses of the Parliament of Canada in the House of Commons chamber on 27 February 2014 in Ottawa, Canada, Maulana Hazar Imam said, "A cherished principle in the Shia Ismaili culture, the importance of contributing one's individual energies on a voluntary basis to improve the lives of others. This is not a matter of blank, but rather of self-fulfillment, enlightened self-fulfillment." Fill in the blank with choice A, choice, B, philanthropy, C, obligation, or D, charity. The correct answer is option B, philanthropy. Volunteerism is a force that encourages collective responsibility while acting as a social glue that brings and holds community together. This notion is central to the Time and Knowledge Nazrana, TKN, established by Maulana Hazar Imam on the occasion of his Golden Jubilee. The purpose of TKN is to strengthen and advance the mandate of the Imamate and Jamaati institutions globally, with contributions made on an individual and collective basis. Offering one's time, knowledge, and material resources for the betterment of others can also be understood as a form of sacrifice and submission. Now, it wouldn't be right to speak of the spirit of voluntary service without recognizing our Ismaili Volunteer Corps, IVC, which has been tirelessly serving the Jamaat for over 100 years. Let's have a look at the IVC's history with our next question. It has been said that the Ismaili Volunteer Corps is based on the supreme idea of self-reliance and service for the communal good. The original emblem of the IVC, which you can now see on your screens, was the Taj. Who granted this emblem to the IVC? Was it A, King George V, B, Queen Elizabeth II, C, Prince Ali Khan, or D, Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah? The correct answer is option D, Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah. In 1920, Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah granted the use of his own crest, the Taj, as an emblem of the Ismaili Volunteer Corps. Although the volunteer badge has evolved over time, a group of volunteers in India called the Taj Volunteers still wear these caps today. The history of the Ismaili community is rich with inspiring stories of individuals who served in numerous ways and capacities, often at the risk of their own lives. This ethic is exemplified in the Muslim traditions across history and geography, including in the agencies of the Aga Khan Development Network, or AKDN. With that, let's move on to our next question. The AKDN relies on the Ismaili tradition of blank to assist in the implementation and maintenance of projects, notably at health and education facilities. Is it A, voluntary service, B, collaboration, C, eating, or D, research? The correct answer is option A, voluntary service. Upon receiving the Dai Quadriga Prize in recognition of the work of the Aga Khan Development Network on 3rd October 2005, Maulana Hazar Imam said,
I am fortunate to lead an international community with a strong social conscience, bridging north and south, east and west. The Ismailis have a long tradition of philanthropy, self-reliance, and voluntary service. Wherever they live, they faithfully abide by the Quranic ethic of a common humanity and a dignity of man.
Voluntary service goes well beyond the parameters of age or socioeconomic status and invites us all to serve, irrespective of their backgrounds. Men and women, young and old, rich and poor, all join together for a singular purpose, which is to extend different forms of service and support towards the betterment of the community and humanity at large. For our next question, let's test our knowledge of the AKDN and its agencies, which extend support to global communities. Focus Humanitarian Assistance, now a part of blank, was set up as an international crisis response and disaster management organization, which emphasizes a community-based approach, particularly in its disaster risk reduction efforts. Your options are A, Aga Khan Trust for Culture, AKTC, B, Aga Khan Historic Cities Program, AKHCP, C, Aga Khan Agency for Habitat, AKAH, or D, Aga Khan Health Services? The correct answer is option C, Aga Khan Agency for Habitat. AKAH depends heavily on its international network of volunteers. They have had TKN volunteers from around the world who have given of their time and knowledge and joined in efforts to limit the magnitude of disaster, taking the work of our organization to the next level. It is a unique contribution because of the risk of the service that is offered during the time of a crisis or disaster. This requires courage and a sense of sacrifice. Volunteerism is grounded in the teachings of Islam. Let's have a look at what Maulana Hazar Imam says about these teachings in our next question. In a speech at the Conference of Indigenous Philanthropy in Islamabad, Pakistan on 17 November 2000, Maulana Hazar Imam said, "The teachings of Islam and the history of Islamic civilizations give us direction and courage to take on the challenges and responsibilities of blank in philanthropic work." Fill in the blank. Is it A, passive engagement, B, medium engagement, C, active engagement, or D, worldly engagement? The correct answer is option C, active engagement.
The teachings of Islam and the history of Islamic civilizations give us direction and courage to take on the challenges and responsibilities of active engagement in philanthropic work.
Let's test our knowledge of the Holy Quran's teaching with our next question. The Quran says that as humans, we are God's blank on earth and have been given the gift of the blank. Fill in the blanks. Is it A, animals and senses, B, trustees and intellect, C, agents and mind, or D, servants and logic? The correct answer is option B, trustees and intellect. For those of you who have studied the IIS secondary curriculum, you may remember that humans have been referred to as God's Khalifas on earth, and that our gift of the intellect provides humans with a special status, as a result of which we have the responsibility of looking after the world and all things in it. Maulana Hazar Imam has also referred to this idea when he explains the work of the Aga Khan Trust for Culture.
As Muslims, we are invited to protect and enhance the world in which we live during our lifetimes. We are trustees of God's creation, hence the word trust in the name of the agency responsible for this restoration.
We are members of a common humanity, where diversity is seen as a strength and pluralism a goal which we should achieve. For our last question, let's have a look at a speech made by Maulana Hazar Imam when he received the Adrian Clarkson Prize for Global Citizenship. He said, "The call of blank should ask us to respect our differences, but not to ignore them, To integrate diversity, not to depreciate diversity? Is it A, animals, B, education, C, pluralism, or D, tolerance? The correct answer is option C, pluralism.
The call of pluralism should ask us to respect our differences, but not to ignore them, to integrate diversity, not to depreciate diversity.
So, how many questions did you answer correctly? Well, regardless of the number, we hope this exchange helped you learn something new while having fun along the way. In our time together, we explored the themes of volunteerism, service, and pluralism, all of which we can find in the festival of Eid al-Adha. Thank you so much for joining us for our special quiz. Ya Ali Madad and Eid Mubarak.